Hi, I recently purchased a Beneteau 461 and the Profurl roller furling drum was seized on it. I did the repair on it myself and I just want to show you how you can do it in case you're a little mechanically inclined and want to save some money. One of the ways you can identify what model you have is to measure the inside of the drum section here. And as you can see, this one's approximately 4.2 centimeters or an NC42. To remove the drum from the sailboat itself, on the forestay you have the guide tubes, and there's two set screws, one on each side. And after those set screws are removed, take the shackle off. Before that you slide the center furling drum part up. And after those two set screws are removed, the whole unit will slide right down off of the bottom of the forestay. So now a basic overview of what's going on inside this drum. Get a pointer here. We have an oil seal which comes down to approximately here. There's a little aluminum extruded ring or machined ring on the inside of the drum. And then this is where the bearing sits, in approximately that location. Snap ring goes there to hold the bearing in place. And then there's another oil seal that goes here. On the internal piece, down here where the bearing goes, there's a snap ring above and a snap ring below to keep the top tube locked into this bearing, which is then in turn locked into this drum using that snap ring. Since the bearing and the oil seals have to come out of the bottom, just due to the nature of the way this is assembled, I had a hard time trying to pry it out of the bottom. My oil seals were, I don't know if you can see that they're rubber coated and with a metal insert. So what I did was drilled two pilot holes in the top of this bearing. Now when you do this, you want to make sure that you don't drill into any of the housing. The holes will be at a little bit of an angle, so when you put your screws in, you want to make sure you keep them nice and vertical. So here I've taken the old seal and give you a quick look at how it kind of works. The two screws are set. They look straighter than they are in real life. And I screw them right through the old bearing. If you do them one at a time, you can really see how bad that bearing was. The screw will come through the gaps in between the bearing and just kind of tear out that little ball bearing holder. They'll push out the bottom, and then they'll push out the bottom oil seal, which is identical to this one. Something that I noticed on these oil seals, and then was explained to me when I went to the store, is this is an NOK TC 50 80 10. Well, what that really means is this inner diameter is 50 millimeters, this outside is 80, and the 10 is the thickness. So make sure you get the right sizes just to make sure that reassembly will work. I've got some pictures here of some of the different things that went on in the disassembly and reassembly. One thing I want to show you first is if you don't have a set of snap ring pliers and you have a spare pair of needle nose pliers, you can just take your grinder and grind them down, and it'll work in both directions, either pushing or pulling to get those snap rings out. On this particular model, there's one external and two internal rings, so you have to kind of go both ways. I also bought these snap ring pliers at Harbor Freight Tools, 12 bucks, and then you've got them for other projects. So after you get that that bottom oil seal out, this is kind of what it'll look like inside. The bearing is all the way into the middle, and it's pressed up against that little aluminum rim. Right here you can see the edges of the snap rings, and that's the one that holds the bearing in place. So now over here, show you a side view of the internal piece. So during the reassembly, you put this oil seal on the small diameter shaft, and then one snap ring, and the bearing is going to ride in here. So when you insert this through the top, this snap ring will stop on top of the bearing on the inside part of the race, and then you'll insert another snap ring underneath the bearing, and that's what locks your center tube into your body of your roller furling. Here's a quick look at the inside of the, let me turn up the brightness on this. Here's a look at the inside of the main body. You can see here's the little rim that the bearing will rest on, and then the dark line is where the snap ring will be inserted to hold it in place. Here's a little shot of the three different snap rings. This is the one that goes in the outside, which holds the main bearing in place. And then there's these two snap rings, which are different sizes, different thicknesses, so you got to make sure you put the right one in the right spot. But those are the two that provide a base for the oil seal and also hold the bearing in place, keep everything from sliding out. So when removing the bearing, I don't have any fancy tools. I don't have any pullers, anything like that. This is a shot of the bearing when it's going in. It's all greased up and ready to go. But you can see how it's resting on this little rim here. So to get this out, I just gently tapped on with a block of wood and a hammer, alternating sides, just really paying attention to what direction the bearing was going in. And if it started to go crooked, stop, reset it, and start again. This body is all aluminum and this bearing is steel, so the steel is going to win. So what you want to do is you want to just be gentle on the body and take your time, and that bearing will come right out. As for greasing the whole unit, all I did was I packed the bearing with grease and then inserted the bearing. Same thing, tap it with the little block of wood. You'll be amazed at how smoothly it goes in. And then I just packed the cups with grease, a little more than that, and then pushed them into place. And so then when the two cups are packed, you really end up with a nice fully packed bearing. And I don't think there's any need to put in a grease nipple. This particular unit lasted, I think it lasted 20 years before this current rebuilding. Now I'll get to the part why I did this myself. I originally was quoted $500 to do this repair. And I don't know about you, but $500 buys a lot of beer for when you're sailing around. So I talked to my local bearing guy and came up with the parts. So here's see, there's that 50, 80, 10 again. 50 internal, 80 external, and 10 for the width. Harwall seals. This one does not have the metal casing, but it does the same thing. It's spring loaded so that it fits tight on the inside and presses nicely against the outside. This is the particular model bearing for my unit, but if you take them to any store, or if you decide to use the store that I'm going to show you the link to, feel free to mail them your parts and the guy will set you up with everything you need. So here's the name of the shop where I went. It's Buffalo Bearings Incorporated on Military Avenue, Buffalo, New York. Give them a call, check out their website. If you have the opportunity to get into their store, you'll see it's kind of a crazy place with about 8 million catalogs. But here we go. There's the total cost for my repair. $50.88, $12 for the snap ring pliers, which I get to keep, and $8 for a tube of waterproof grease. So quite a bit of savings. So here's my email address. If you have any questions, drop me a line and I'll try to help you answer them for you. Craig_windsurf@yahoo.com. Happy repairing.